as another ballad rolls. He's got 1.4 million TikTok fans. Everybody loves Neil on the sand. Traffic cones are basically his Tinder. Every fence gets swiped right each winter. He's Australia's biggest viral deal. Everybody loves Neil the Seal. Everybody loves Neil the Seal. Other young seals wrestle mates all day. Neil's got fences standing in the way. His friends live thousands of kilometers south, so he flops on anything like it's his couch. Every pole in Tassie's got a restraining order. The council says Neil back to the water. Telephone box, yeah, that'll do. Poor bloke just wants to call a crew. He doesn't want the fame or flashing lights. He just wants seal mates by his side at night. But instead he's trending everywhere. Hobart's biggest superstar without a care. He's got better approval ratings than the PM. Hobart's unofficial mayor. Everyone backs him. My toxic trait, if he knocked on my fly screen door, I'd unlock it before he hit the floor. If perimenopause was an animal, it'd probably be him. A beautiful blubbery disaster potato with a grin. He needs his own TV show. Netflix, come on, give Neil a go. He's got 1.4 million TikTok fans. Everybody loves Neil on the sand. Traffic cones are basically his Tinder. Every fence gets swiped right each winter. He's Australia's biggest viral deal. Everybody loves Neil the Seal. He'd trade every viral reel just to hang with another elephant seal. From the beaches to every pub and meal, everybody loves Neil the Seal. Neil, Neil, Neil. Everybody loves Neil the Seal. Neil, Neil, Neil. Mayor of Hobart, what a legend. Neil, Neil, Neil. King of the coast, prince of the poles. Everybody loves Neil the Seal.
Why did the koala bear fall out of the tree? Do I even want to know? I think part of the reason everyone loves Neil so much is that he's just so ochre, you know. He was said, of course, you know, why else would the koala fall out of the tree? He's just, you know, he's your real Aussie. He just really doesn't give a F. He just really couldn't care less, and he just does his own thing and doesn't really care what anyone else thinks. Apparently Neil has now headed back out to sea, so it sounds like he's finished his molt, and will be gone for another 6 months probably, and then turn up even bigger. I saw a video. I'm not sure if it was one that I shared in here or it was just one that was on social media. I lose track. I saw a video on somewhere that just got me really angry because people were getting really, really up in his face. Now, I realised that 7 Mile Beach is actually a highly populated area. It's easily accessible for people from Hobart because it's only like a 20-minute drive. But honestly, these idiots that take their kids there, if Neil went at one of their kids and tried to, you know, do that whole bodyweight thing against one of those kids, he would crush them. And people are forgetting that. I think the latest is that the Clarence City Council is going to look at a management plan, which is good, because honestly, what they're saying about, you know, people could love Neil to death, it is so true. Because when you get people getting in really close, you know, Welcome in, Joanna. Good to see you here. At the end of the day, the sort of, marine management, animal management kind of people, they're not going to wait for Neil to crush someone's child before they take actions. So if these people keep getting in Neil's face, it just makes me so wild. Like this footage that I saw, must have been a few families, and these people were really close to Neil. They had kids that would have been like, about 8 or 10 or something, and they're all like running away and pushing the kids out of the way and laughing. And I'm like, you are the people that are going to cause the end of this seal. Because I think it would be even worse. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I was thinking, well, is there like somewhere like the zoo in Taronga Park Zoo or somewhere like that, where he could go and be part of a community or something, but it would kill him. Neil's not meant to be in a zoo or a park or anything like that. And as horrible as it sounds, I would rather see him euthanized than be put in like a zoo or anything. So anyway, that's my rant for this morning. So I didn't do a live stream yesterday because I was down a major rabbit hole, and I see Justin's also now down that rabbit hole. I noticed that he was covering that. So this one I dropped early this morning. This is a story out of Mississippi. A young man called Nolan Wells, and he went with his mates to celebrate Independence Day. Went to this island that's like this island that's nothing off the coast, and they were all partying. And according to his friends, he decided to stay back with a girl. He wanted to hang out with this girl. The girl says that he left with his friends. His friends had his phone and his keys on their boat. And there's a lot of irregularities like that. So I did a video about that, and I dropped that this morning. So that's one case I've started looking at. And this one. This is really close to home for me. Yeah, Neil, they should put up a sign for Neil. I think, there's been a lot of news footage, a lot of people talking about it on the news and trying to warn people. I know locals are getting a bit pissed off with people coming in from Hobart and that just to come and see Neil. And, there's a lot of people that are very, very protective of Neil and getting very, very angry. People were so good around him when he was smaller, which is ironic. But they were so good about keeping his location secret and things like that. And now it's just gone ridiculous. Yeah, you can't fix stupid, honestly. Yeah, so the Nolan Wells case, it really does seem super fishy. The family have they're having their own autopsy done, which is such a good thing. The other huge red flag for me is that when the friends got back, the one who happens to be the son of a judge rang Nolan's mother and said, "Oh, has he made it back?" And she's like, "No, I thought he was with you." Anyway, she tried to track his phone on Life 360, and it turned out that one of his friends had his phone. So not only did they take it back with them, but they didn't even tell his parents they had his phone. Actually, that's a good idea. I did like a TikTok size version of the Neil video, and I just threw it on my TikTok page just for the people that follow me on there. And it's been up for less than 24 hours. Last time I checked, which was kind of early hours of the morning, it already had like 3,000 views. So yeah, maybe an awareness one would be next. I'm kind of a bit stressed that I've got all these new followers on my TikTok page because I don't do like that kind of Neil thing on my TikTok page. It was just I threw it on there. And I just hope all these people that are suddenly following my TikTok page aren't following because they want more Neil videos. Anyway, let's go back to Layla. This is Layla Jeffrey. She's from a little country town about an hour and a half from here. Welcome in, Fairy. Layla was only 13. Now, I've done a video about her, which covers what we know so far about the case. But at the end of the day, here in Australia, you know, these little country towns, everybody knows everyone. There's never any... It feels like someone actually mentioned this in the comments of my video, and it was something that I'd thought of mentioning in my video, and I was like, wasn't sure. I didn't want to make too many comparisons with too many other cases. But it does feel like Delphi in a sense that it's that small town feel where, you know, the kids can roam, the kids can go anywhere they like because it's safe. And, you know, I would imagine, I haven't looked into it, but I would imagine it's your typical country town where, you know, Saturday arvo, everybody goes to the footy so that the teenagers go and hang out together at the footy while, you know, the guys watch the footy, you know, that sort of thing. And, you know, the teenagers probably all catch up in a particular spot and that kind of thing. Just your laid-back country town where it's completely safe. Layla snuck out of her room. According to her aunt, they think it was around 4 a.m. on the 5th. So it would have been Sunday morning. So a week ago now, she snuck out of her room and she appears to have met up with this 16-year-old boy. We don't know a lot. We know that he's from Swan Hill, which is about an hour and a half away from Donald, which is where she lived. They haven't said why he was at Donald. But what is interesting is that they took his mum and his aunt in for questioning. And clearly they were staying at a household there. So I don't know if they've got family connections there or what the story was. But But all we know so far is that she met him through friends, which is what happens in these countries, towns, These kids hang out together. If one kid knows another kid, then they all know each other sooner or later. She met this boy through friends. She snuck out in the early hours of the morning. And they found her remains, I think, a few days ago. So it was about the 10th that they found her remains. And they've arrested the 16-year-old boy and charged him with murder. Now, that's pretty much all we've been told publicly, other than that the 16-year-old boy is known to Victorian police. When I look at a lot of the local Facebook pages, I think he was known to the community as well. And he shouldn't have been anywhere near this girl, in my opinion, if any of the things that are being said online are correct. Anyway, I'm not going to go into those things because I don't want to go into anything that's been that hasn't been verified. No, I don't think she was anywhere near his house. This is a quiet country kid who she's homeschooled. Just like the sort of things that any other 13-year-old liked. We don't even know how long he was around for. I mean, he might have only just got there that day. I just think she was young, she was naive. I mean, thinking back to when you're 13, it would be flattering to have the attention of a 16-year-old boy. And yeah, I know she was homeschooled, so she wasn't going to school with, peers and everything. But clearly these country kids all hang around together. So I can remember when I was 13 and, you kind of looked on awe at your friends that had older boyfriends because it kind of, made them super cool and super mature. So if you're 13 and a 16-year-old boy is paying attention to you, I mean, looking back at, me and my friends at that age, and it's just embarrassing when you look back at when you're 13. But I don't think, they haven't said anything about her hanging out with him prior to that. This is a good girl, so she wouldn't have been like, staying at his house or anything like that. The fact that she snuck out in the early hours of the morning says to me that it's something that she wasn't letting her family know about. So it's truly, truly heartbreaking. There'll be more information coming out, no doubt. My biggest fear, because he's 16, they were still taking evidence from the house where his mum was at. They were doing grid searches in, like, the paddocks around the river where she was found. They were diving in the river. The fact that they were taking evidence out of the house makes me wonder if maybe the mother had supplied him with alcohol, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he was from a broken home and maybe mum lives in the town and he lives with her father at Swan Hill. They haven't explained that side of it. I do think when you look at them doing the grid searches and diving in the river, I think they're looking for a weapon. And it sounds like first responders, police who were dealing with the scene, it sounds like it was a really traumatic scene. The bits and pieces of information that are trickling out make me think that we're looking at a bit of a Biddy Porter kind of situation again. Likely computer and cell phone information from the house. Good point. One rumor that's going around, because there's been other similar things said on different pages. And like, I'm talking community pages, so, you know, over in Maryborough, which is an hour the other way from here, so several hours from where they are, but then also from around her area, from the Swan Hill area as well. There has been one comment that stood out to me, which a lot of comments kind of sound similar to. Someone suggested that this kid, had been using lawnmower blades to make machetes. And I hope that's wrong. I hope that's not the case. And, I wasn't going to repeat that, but I do think that they were looking for a weapon. And I think they were looking for a knife, just based on the little bits of information that are trickling out. It's heartbreaking. I really feel for her family, and it's so sad for, this to happen to a 13-year-old girl. And it's definitely not something that we expect here in Australia, but it's starting to happen far too often. The Isla Bell case, that the woman in the wheelie bin, and I need to do a video on that. It seems like the people that were responsible for what happened to her have pretty much got away with it. I think their charges were dropped or minimised. And that's what I worry about with this case, because he's a 16-year-old boy. I think they're going to deal with him. Well, at the moment, they're dealing with him in children's court. And I worry that they won't escalate it and treat him as an adult, because he deserves to be treated as an adult. And I know we're going to get the same situation. They're going to protect his identity because he's only 16. Well, F that, because 16, alongside a 13-year-old, and what he did, I do not understand why they protect offenders in these sort of cases. They're just like Timothy Hudson. Yep. Well, I don't know if he's got psych problems, but they were saying in one of the interviews that the town is angry. And when we know that he's known to Victorian police as well, it certainly makes you question what hasn't been done. Exactly. He's big enough to take a life. He's definitely big enough to face the consequences. And 16, that is not an age where you need to protect them. Really not an age where you need to protect them. Oh, for sure. For sure, if they let him out, he will do it again. But the Australian legal system is so piss poor, he'll probably only get 10 years. Maybe 15. I mean, you just have to look at Chopper Read. He got out and he became a local celebrity in the area where he was living. Yeah, exactly. If he put forethought and planning into her death, he definitely should be treated as an adult case. I mean, it certainly seems like she was lured because, you know, from all accounts, this is a really good girl, a quiet girl who was homeschooled, loved doing all the usual teenage things. So it certainly makes me think that he lured her out to that river. And, you know, what 13-year-old girl isn't going to be flattered by the attention of a 16-year-old? And that's the thing. If he's hidden a weapon somewhere, that really says a lot. And I really hope that the rest of Victoria and, if not the rest of Australia, really stand behind this little town, and get loud if he's given any sort of leniency. Because this shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen in our little country towns. It shouldn't happen to a 13-year-old, and it shouldn't happen with a 16-year-old that's known to police. I mean, I imagine that court proceedings will be closed, but if Ping, who's the other Australian content creator from Victoria, if he is attending court, I will certainly be getting notes off him when that mongrel goes to court. I don't think I'd be travelling down to Melbourne every day for it. But if it's online, I'll be watching it. No, he's from Swan Hill, which is about an hour and a half from Donald. Swan Hill's like one of the big towns. I don't know if I'm thinking there must be family there. I don't know if maybe he lives with his father and was visiting his mum, or if they've got family there and him and his mum were visiting people there. He wasn't from there though, he was from Swan Hill, but they haven't given any details as to why he was there. It's so devastating, you know, for a small town. This is just gonna rock them to the core. It's like every Commonwealth country has this Westminster system. But honestly, it seems like ours is a weakened version. Because for the most part, criminals in the UK get a worse deal than criminals in Australia. And it's starting to sound like that's the same with Canada. I mean, there are so many horrific cases in Australia where the offenders get released after a ridiculous amount of time. And I can guarantee this guy's probably going to do 15 years most. He'll get out in his 30s, if not earlier. And he'll just be that sort of a-hole that wherever he lives will be a menace to other women, to younger men, and there's a good chance that he will reoffend. Wow. Holly Newton, 15-year-old UK teenager, stabbed to death 36 times by her jealous ex-boyfriend Logan in January 2023. He got life with a minimum of 17 years. I have to look that up because, yeah, I haven't heard that. I'm just jotting that name down. I just think we need to take a closer look at the way the United States deals with these sorts of offenders. Because as far as I'm concerned, if someone takes a life, that's it. They should be locked up permanently. Now, I know people think that maybe Mackenzie Shirilla got an easy deal because potentially she could be out by 2037, but I doubt that she will. But if that was Australia, she might have only got 6 months in jail. There was a case of a couple of young guys down in Tassie, and they'd been at a party. They were, I can't remember whether they were, I think they might have been just under 21. They'd been at a party and they decided to drive back to a different property. One of the boys was 3 sheets to the wind, basically, and the other boy was also over the limit. They shouldn't have been driving in the first place, but they did. The boy that was driving the vehicle that belonged to the other boy that was well and truly 3 sheets to the wind, and he had a car accident. The other boy, the passenger, died. He got put on home arrest. And this is a young man who is known amongst locals as being a bit of a clown. He's known as being reckless. And a lot of the locals believe that he really was messing around and doing dumbass stuff. And the accident was a result less of him being intoxicated, more of him just being a dickhead, essentially. Oh, wow. Shows him stalking her for several days, following her on CCTV. Wow. Anyway, I should stop ranting about the crappy justice system. Interesting thing that I'm going to be looking at today, just before I got online, I saw an article saying that Australian police have released the interview footage with Bradley Murdoch, who was the guy that was responsible for the disappearance of Peter Falconio. If you're Australian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was a British tourist, I think they were. There was a couple of British tourists that were travelling around Australia, and this guy, now I can't remember, my brain's having a mental blank. I think either they were stopped or this guy pulled them over. And the only reason that Peter Falconio's partner is still alive is because she ran off into the bushes and she hid. But this guy was nutso, completely nutso. He was going to kill both of them. She went and hid. When she eventually resurfaced, he was gone. Peter Falconio was gone. They've never found Peter Falconio's remains. And this guy never gave up his remains. Anyway, moving on. Now, I was talking the other day, I want to play this one little clip of Candace Wells in the Summer Wells case talking about Summer jumping straight out of the car. Because the way she says it, to me, it tells me a lot. So I was talking about this the other day and I was like, well, I haven't got it, but I've now gone and got it. So I'm going to play this before we go on with some more Lily and Jack stuff.
Now she's
My
leaning.
mom's truck parks here.
Okay, your mom's truck's right here.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're.
I actually don't remember the video being that dark. I had pre-recorded this a few days ago and I went to put it in here in StreamYard and went, oh, I must have done something wrong. So I went and recorded it again. But it's the way it is on Chris's channel.
She's leaning against the milk. Is she
Yes.
sleeping?
She was sleeping, yes.
Okay. From exhaustion from that day?
Yes, she
Okay.
was. Where I woke her up early and she usually sleeps until 9, 10, even 12 o'clock if I let her.
Okay. How did the milk bottles get rearranged? Hunter said he had them on the floor and then he put them next to him.
They weren't
Is that
on,
true?
no.
Okay, so walk me through that.
When we dropped them off, they were actually still on his lap.
Okay.
And he put them on the other side of Summer.
Okay.
I think I want to brighten up this interview and actually do an analysis of her. Because the look on her face when he's asking her about those milk bottles, it's almost a look of fear. There's something there, something that I need to look at with a brighter image and with time to just slow it down and really look. I'm just going to run it back a sec.
No.
Okay, so walk me through that.
When we dropped them off, they were actually still on his lap.
Okay.
And he put them on the other side of Summer.
Okay. So he reached over?
Yeah, he set them over there by that. What's a black tote she had in there?
Okay. Was there, where's that tote at?
I think actually my mom's got it still in her truck. It's got a bunch of crafts and stuff in it.
Okay, got it. And now from when you pulled up, did she just fall asleep next to that?
She fell asleep, I'd say maybe 5 minutes on the road.
Okay, got it. And then, so walk me through, you get home, you take the groceries inside. Is Don home, by the way?
No, he's
Okay,
not.
okay.
Actually, I parked the truck and I opened both doors. It's really hard because this lawnmower is. But I opened the doors up and I shook her. I said, wake up, we're at home. She jumped right up.
Okay.
Like nothing. I unbuckled her and...
Honestly, every time I hear that, I just can't with her. She jumped right up like nothing. It's a huge red flag for me. It's also interesting that we're getting a similar thing with her when she talks about this mower or whatever it is, and she doesn't refer to Don as Don, she's just like he. So again, yeah, exactly. I do not think. I don't think Summer got herself out of that vehicle. I'm one of the people who looks at that milk bottle photo and sees it as concerning. But when Candace said this, straight away, the first time I heard this, I was like, nah, that never happened. And the rest of her story is just a real, it's recited. Canada's legal system has bail conditions to presume innocence, focus on rehabilitation instead of incarceration, and avoids overrepresentation by groups. I know Australia is quite big on the whole bail thing as well, bail conditions and, also trying to let people out early for good behaviour and stuff like that. I hope they don't bail that 16-year-old kid out. I really do. I think he needs to stay locked up, in my opinion.
I said, come on. I said, Mom, I'll be right back. Well, went in there, and he got the boys, and they were sitting at the table. And I said, come on, let's get the groceries out. And we brought them all in the house, went through them all.
This is the scaffolding you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my,
Okay, so she comes up, jumps up, and goes right in.
Yep.
Okay, how many cats? You know what? You should have like a zoo license.
All right, well, we walked up in here and we got Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon, the boys.
Right.
Well,
You put the groceries down, right?
Yeah, well, we went back out and then we brought the groceries in and put them down.
Yeah, our legal system, Canada and Australia both have the Westminster system, which is based on the UK's system. We're, still part of the colony, apparently. But it's just become a joke at the end of the day. That is the thing. There really are no real consequences. I covered a case about 6 months ago. It was only one video that I did, and it was a DV situation where she had left the guy. She'd moved out, she got her own place. She was doing really, really well. And she went back to hang out with him one evening. And he got drinking again. Things escalated. Things went south. She didn't have phone reception. So she was basically trying to get away from this guy. And she was running down the driveway of the property. And he intentionally ran her down with a vehicle. He didn't stop. Basically, he ran her down. He ran over the top of her. And she died. And he got 8 years for that. Because they don't take that sort of vehicular homicide seriously. Welcome in, Dodie. And to think that this woman's life was only worth 8 years, it's just obscene. Absolutely obscene. Okay, so I'll just play this last bit with Candace and then we will go back on to doing some Jack and Lily. But I definitely now want to go and do a proper analysis of this. It should be life in prison. Her daughter ended up becoming mother to her younger siblings, and she's fighting for a change to the laws because it needs to be harsher penalties. I've just put a little bit more of this narrative from Candace in, so I'll play that and then we'll move on.
And then Mom, she took her stuff to her house, put her stuff away.
Okay.
And then, of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away.
Okay. You went back in.
Yeah, me and Summer went back in the house. And then we were just doing normal stuff.
Okay.
Around the house like we normally do.
Massive hole in the timeline there. Just a jump and a real general, and we were just doing normal stuff like we normally do. But I'm definitely gonna sit down and do a proper analysis of this. How much did you miss, Dodie? I was just going through the other two cases that I covered yesterday. Yeah, just like normal. That's a huge red flag, especially when there's no details around it. I do not think Summer ever got out of that car on her own. Oh yeah, no, the US justice system isn't perfect. But it's still a step up from Australia, in my opinion. Yes, Australia has two now. Finally. Such an important thing. Of course, the thing now will be that transition of getting authorities to actually prosecute crimes. Because it's all very well to introduce the law, but now it's got to be something that becomes practice with law enforcement. You're allowed to be off topic. Oh, that's interesting too. A homicide charge for the perpetrator if victims of that in a DV case. Well, that's good. That's good. I think we're slowly getting there, but we are a long way off, I think, in terms of the laws. Welcome in, Shelley. Yeah, that's my concern. It's how it's going to be in action is the question. Is it going to be something that gets applied, or is it going to be something that gets overlooked? Okay, well, I've done a lot of covering of everything but Lily and Jack. But I did want to bring those cases up, and I did want to talk about Layla's case because, you know, it's only an hour and a half from here. It does feel way too close to home, and being a country town, it also is just, it feels so wrong. What case are we covering tonight? We're now going back to Lily and Jack, but I've been all over the place. So I spoke about little Layla, who's a 13-year-old girl who, from a little town in Victoria here, who was killed by a 16-year-old boy. That's a new case. I also spoke about the Nolan Wells case, which I put a video out on this morning. Case out of Mississippi, which has so many red flags. And I was just going through some of what Candace said with Summer's case. I know a lot of people cover Summer Wells's case, But I've got so much to say. I would love to be doing some live streams on summer, depending on what people think. So, let me know if you are interested, but I will definitely be doing some analysis videos of Candace because so many red flags for me. Anyway, let's have a listen to some more of what Belinda had to say. I've taken the audio back a bit, just to where she's talking about the footprints on the bank, because I thought that was very interesting and very significant. And I do think the more attention for Summer's case, the better. So I think I am going to do some live streams talking about Summer because I've got so much to say about her case. I didn't have a channel when Summer went missing. I followed Chris and Josh and several other smaller content creators. I do feel it's something there's part of me that's reluctant because of some of the channels that do cover her case. But at the same time, I'm so passionate about Summer's case. I haven't forgotten Summer. I was like so many other people back when she went missing that, I fell in love with this little girl and wanted answers. Welcome in, Summer Breeze. Good to see you here. Okay, let's have some Belinda.
That mud embankment that you see going up the hill to where the kids' forts are.
Yep.
Well, there was children's footprints all around there.
Okay, but why are we told there was only one found?
I have no idea. Yes, the
Go ahead.
children would be visible if they were on the embankment. You probably could see them from the road if you were up handy the driveway, yes.
So have I heard Josh's letter to Summer? Is it one that he did quite a while ago? Because I may have. That rings a bell. I got less sleep last night than I have in any other night in ages. My old dog was just so unsettled last night. It would have been after 6 o'clock before I finally crashed out. And then I crawled out of bed again at 9, so I'm a little bit sleep deprived. I couldn't watch the trial with Harmony Montgomery. There are details of that case that I don't want to know. And I know that sounds harsh because, especially coming from me, who is, I do my best to advocate for as many victims as possible. But Harmony was let down so badly, and what he did, the guy is a monster. Well, I'm hoping I can get some more sleep tonight. Because I'm so sleep deprived. Don't use like a permanent popsicle. Yeah, I do want to do more on Summers. Now, I know I'm replaying that bit there, but there was something that occurred to me too. Because Belinda said she wasn't certain about the boot print sizes. And I want to check with her if she thinks that they were the size of little kids. Because something that occurred to me this morning is that I'm one of these people that I can actually buy children's shoes. I have, like UK size, I'm about a 37, 38, depending on the type of shoes. Which, in Australia is, about size 7, size 6, size 7, again, depending on the sizes. So there are times when, if I'm looking for shoes, if I see a pair of shoes that are kids' shoes that I actually like, then I can actually check it out, and if the larger sizes are, a decent size, I can buy kids' shoes. So what I'm saying there is that, is she certain that they were definitely little kids' prints, or were they just small prints? Because I know I've got very small feet, and I know there are plenty of adults like me who have very small feet. Because we know that Belinda went there on the Saturday. So by the time she'd been there had been people all over that property looking for Lily and Jack. Now, I trust Belinda's perception, so I'm still thinking that she's right and they were children's prints all over the bank, which certainly raises questions, because it certainly fits in with the children getting out onto the driveway and doing so on a regular basis, and it fits in with them headed up to the cabin or the fort or whatever you want to call it, and doing so on a regular basis. So yeah, it's probably something that I do want to just double check with Belinda or Chelsea at one point, just to get their perspective, like how small were these prints? Because you do get adults with small feet. Anyway, moving on from that, just a bit of speculation, because if I keep hovering around what we spoke about the other day, we'll never get anywhere with this.
And it has never been stated until now that there were all kinds of children's boot prints all over the place.
Yes, Dragonfly, Mom. Daniel's children were also up there. I'm assuming that fort was built at Easter time, going from how green it was when we were there to how throughout the summer the branches were dying off and were dead. So we assumed it must have been built because I think it was Easter or shortly thereafter that his children were there for a visit.
So the children's boot prints that you saw all over the bank and whatnot, Daniel's other children are significantly older than Lily and Jack.
They are. I think it's his son is younger than the daughter. I think the daughter's the oldest between the two. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them, I think, might be handy, say, Lily's size boot print.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't pay attention to sizing. We just noticed that there was kids' prints. You could tell where they climbed up the embankment, they played around there.
So I did clarify this the other day. In terms of ages, the boy was the same age as Lily. And Daniel's daughter turned 9 in June or July after the kids went missing. So age-wise, not a great deal older, and certainly the son was the same age as Lily was. I think it's worth noting here too, Belinda's got grandkids, so she knows what kids' boot prints would be like size-wise. So, her saying, well, they're, definitely children's boot prints. For me, that, makes me confident that, they definitely were children's boot prints. And we've certainly not heard any accounts of anyone bringing kids with them to the property when they searched. Just trying to read through comments. Okay, we'll keep going anyway.
Okay. Well, it's just interesting that it's never come up before. Even to say, oh yeah, well there are lots of, there are kids' boot prints all over the place because of Daniel's kids, or this is where all the kids play, but only one was identified and proven to be or match Lily's, or do you know what I mean? It's
Yes,
just weird.
yes.
It's just weird that this has never ever been stated before.
I did ask Major Crimes because, the kids did play all over the yard. And then I heard the story that the dogs only picked up a scent of the kids going out to the end of the driveway. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay, so a few things there. First of all, someone pointed out in the live stream the other day that I think the reason for the focus on that one boot print was they said that they thought it was facing like it was headed off the property. But someone else said, well, it's also because Janie claims she was raking there, which means that it would have happened after she was raking. In terms of the heading off the property, Belinda clarified the other day that, because I said, well, to me, the location of it just suggests they were headed to the fort. They were headed in the direction of those broken down vehicles, which is, the main route up to the fort. And Belinda actually mentioned the other day that there's several tracks up to the fort. There isn't just the one. But that the one that I was referring to was the main one. I think probably the main reason was because Janie claimed to have raked there. And so, it's kind of this boot print went there after the children went missing, allegedly. I still think it's a load of BS, in my opinion. Given that Janie was filling potholes and not raking gravel for starters. But anyway, that debate. Anyway, I probably shouldn't go down that road. Now the dogs. And Belinda's saying that she heard the story that the dogs only picked up a scent of the kids going out to the end of the driveway, and she doesn't know if it's true. I had clarified that with Belinda after listening to the last lot of Daniel audio, and she said it was Daniel that told her that. And yet Daniel was really vague about it, and he's like, he doesn't know where he heard it from. I don't know if it's come from a searcher and people just don't remember that that's who told them that, or if it's one of Daniel's stories that got forgotten. But it doesn't seem to be something that anyone knows the actual origins of the story of this dog tracing their scent to the end of the driveway. It's interesting though, but we hear that so often with cases. That same with Summer Wells. They reckon that her scent was tracked down through the dog trail or something down to the road or something like that. Is it significant? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
The dog papers, and I'm assuming it must be true, but I don't know if it is or not.
Well, what I recall, and there's a distinct difference. What I recall being said right in the very beginning was the only scent the dogs picked up was at the bottom of the driveway. Not that the only scent the dogs picked up led and ended at the bottom of the driveway. And why that is interesting, it is a significant difference. But the other thing, too, is that if you
Yeah, I don't know about this, her saying that the only scent was at the bottom of the driveway. Because I never heard that for starters. And I think we're talking like 14 months on, so it's easy to forget the details that you heard. From my memory, the first I heard of it was Belinda on Sunny's Live, where she was saying the dogs tracked the scent to the end of the driveway or the end of the yard. So I don't know if Susan's just misinterpreted it. I'd love to know where she believes she heard that, because it's not what I heard. I don't know if other people have a different perspective, if other people think they heard the same as what she's saying. We've never had any verification from law enforcement, though, about the dogs. It was never mentioned in any news media stories or articles. So I'm not putting a lot of weight on it.
read up on, and I'm not an expert on, scent dogs and whatnot, but I did research this quite a fair bit. And I've also been involved in searches in BC with scent dogs. Scents do, even in rain, scents do last for a fair bit of time. I mean, at minimum, at least 24 hours, if not 48 hours, with really, really heavy rains. 72 hours, up to 72 hours if there was no rain. So if Lily and Jack, for example, on Thursday afternoon had been playing around that area, picking bugs and doing all of this sort of stuff that is what Janie and Daniel have stated, their scent should be all over that yard.
Right.
That's a really good point. Now, we know Belinda has said that it was raining on the nights after Lily and Jack went missing. I mean, we had that ridiculous statement from Malaya on day 2 when she said, it's been raining, but the sun's come out, so I hope they're warm. And she has that pause before warm, never throws in the warm and dry. It was just really odd the way she said it. And it's certainly not what I would have been worrying about first up. I'd be worrying about where they are. But I just lost where I'm at with that. But talking about the dogs on the driveway and the rain. So up to 72 hours if there was no rain. A minimum of 24 to 48 hours possibly in the rain. Obviously, that would depend on the sort of dogs. If we're talking ground scent dogs that scent like where there's been a ground disturbance, where there's like broken foliage, where they're scenting along the ground and maybe there's, rocks have been shifted in the ground, I could see that. But if they were just air scent dogs, not scent specific, then the rain would certainly make a difference. in your personal opinion, you can't let go of the dog involvement possibility. Yeah, I've moved past that because of statements made by law enforcement, and also various things that Daniel has said, and also the knowledge that there was a serious DV issue in the household. But that said, I don't think we can 100% discount anything like that when they're being so deceptive. Because why is Janie so adamant that there was never any other dog on that property? Because when I listen to the things that Belinda has said, it pretty much seals the deal for me that there was definitely another dog on the property. Yes, I agree. Coming down from rugs and having been through some kind of heck doesn't help your word choices. The dogs were air scent dogs. That's been said. What's interesting is that, and Belinda's about to talk about this in a minute, is that there's not been a lot of clarification about the dogs that they used. Belinda did point out that they did get a bloodhound in, but that wasn't one of the first dogs there. The first dogs there, I think you're right, were the air scent dogs. I've not heard any mention of ground scent dogs, although the bloodhound could well be. Anyway, I'll keep playing.
Their scent should be all over that yard. Their scent should be up in the fort area. But like I said, we only have the police that can verify things, and they don't do that.
It's in the court documents, Megan. There is reference to it in the court documents, I believe.
No, there's no reference in the court documents. In the court documents, they refer to the area around where on the pipeline trail, they refer to the dogs searching around there. But there's no discussion of this scent being tracked to the end of the driveway in the documents. Not anywhere. Yeah. Good point. If the rain removes the scent, then there wouldn't be a scent at the end of the driveway. So that does make me think that the story about them tracking the scent to the end of the driveway or tracking the scent at the end of the driveway is perhaps a fabrication by Daniel. I think from memory, and I'd have to go back and check what Belinda said, but I think she said it was when she went back on the 17th that Daniel told her about the dogs tracking the scent. And we know that by that point, obviously, I think he was already trying to put the focus on Malaya. I think they were already starting to lean towards trying to push the whole Malaya had someone take the kids off the property. Because that's when he told Belinda that Janie heard a shush. So if you look at it in that context, actually, it had to have been on the 17th because Belinda didn't see him on the Saturday. So he told Belinda that on the 17th about the dogs. Oh, so would I, Dodie. One story that makes sense and one story that doesn't change. Because that's the frustrating bit. You get a story, people question it, or they call out the things that just don't make sense, that aren't illogical, and then suddenly the story changes. Nobody has told a consistent story. Not one person, not even Janie. Like, she tries, but she always changes it. He does. Daniel pulls everything out of his ass, in my opinion. Daniel the Artful Dodger. So true. So true. He adapts his behaviours. He adapts his narrative. The guy is a chameleon. And not only that, when he adapts his narrative, as Chris McDonough pointed out, he's very quick to pick up on what is being put down by people when they're talking to them, and to run with that. Yep. Both Janie and Daniel. I never said that. The amount of gaslighting they've done of Belinda, where she's come out and said, this is what Janie told me, like the shushing, just for example. And then they're like, no, we never said that. Well, here's the thing. Belinda's accounts of when she went to the property, Belinda's accounts of her interactions with Daniel and Janie have never changed. So if she had fuzzy memories over it, because obviously she's got no reason to lie about the situation, but let's say that she misremembered, then we're going to get changes as her memory tries to work through these things. But we don't get changes. So to me, and especially with Belinda saying Daniel put his finger up, that's the additional visual cue that tells me that no, she hasn't misremembered that in any way whatsoever. Same with the Malaya telling her that Justin was living in the RV. Her sister heard the same thing. Were they both having a joint hallucination? He adapts everything to fit public opinion. That's for sure. Oh, yeah, these guys really are masterminds, aren't they? Pure genius. Oh, dear. Honestly, it's just a joke. I mean, Janie has tried to stick with her narrative, but then she has these moments where she leaks things. But Daniel, he just adapts it depending on who he's talking to, depending on the situation, depending on what people have said about the last time he spoke. I mean, even his body language. I mentioned early on with those first interviews that he was really good at masking, and that we weren't seeing much of anything in terms of facial expressions, and that he wasn't moving at all. And for me, I remember distinctly saying with some of those early interviews that it was a red flag for me that I wasn't seeing much body movement at all. So what does he do? He comes out and he does the helicopter arm interview, where you think he's going to take out the reporter waving his arms so much. And it was ridiculous. It was extreme, and everyone noticed it and commented on it. So then he dialed it back the next time round. And the blanket story, he thought that he had this brilliant story talking to the turkey guy with the finding the hand-sized hole in the bag, and everyone tore it to shreds because it was such a joke. So then he latches onto, well, actually, no, the bit of blanket was on the railing. And then conveniently, this image appears that apparently was seen on Justin's show, which I can guarantee you 100% was an AI image, because there's this image then that apparently appears of the piece of blanket on the railing. Complete impossibility. I haven't seen that image. I asked people about the image and they just keep going, well, Justin showed it, but nobody's actually got it to show. I will always keep it a safe space here, Summer Breeze. I will not tolerate people being bullied in my chat or in comments. I just find it sad that it's got to that point here on YouTube where people are being bullied just for commenting, because everyone's opinion matters. And developing an understanding of these cases, nobody gets it all right. I've learnt so much from my subscribers in terms of different perceptions. I know there's one or two content creators who are like so critical of me because I changed my mind. Well, if you have this notion that's set in stone, what's the point? Yes, I've changed my mind multiple times with this case. I haven't completely disregarded the possibility of a dog attack. I don't think it's likely, but it's still there at the back of my mind if there's something else that comes up that could be point in that direction. I haven't completely discarded the possibility of hypothermia, that the children were locked outside and no one realised until it was too late. I haven't ruled out the possibility of something happening in the house, although I'm still mostly leaning at the moment towards the driveway and or the forts. Yeah. Unfortunately, people believe BS. There's this. I've noticed that people seem to be more inclined to believe sensationalist crap than to actually stop, think about it, and trust their own instincts and trust what they actually know. Exactly. Theories change as new information comes to light. And also, not just as the prior information is shown to be inaccurate, but when prior information is shown to be BS, when someone basically slips up and we discovered that it was just a made-up narrative. There was a content creator with the Summer Wells case that I followed early on, and that content creator was putting out really good content, and then they got stuck on one theory and they weren't moving on from that theory. And anytime someone in their comments section of their videos questioned the theory or suggested something different, they got really defensive and just really were pushing back and telling people they were wrong. And I stopped following that content creator. because you get new information consistently, and you've got to take that on. And if that means throwing away a theory that you were certain about, then that's what you do. Yeah. That is so true. There was a study you read about social media, and they demonstrated that lies spread more rapidly and aggressively than truth. It does happen. I've also noticed that platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and I don't know if this is going to affect me by saying them, but there are platforms who will ignore their own policies because there's good money to be made from bullying and from sensationalism. That's the content that sells. So these platforms ignore it, and they ignore their own policies because that way they make money. Yes, definitely the fact that there are 2 children involved definitely changes things a lot. It makes the accidental thing so less likely, and definitely abduction, again, makes it even less likely. I mean, we know now there was no abduction. We know they did not wander into the woods. We're just waiting for that day when Rob McCammon comes out publicly and says, yes, we're treating it as a criminal investigation. Essentially, he has. He did do that slip up where he mentioned something about it being a criminal case. But, you know, we're still waiting for that official mention. Oops. People who are bullies on YouTube do not confine their bullying to YouTube. Yep. I have never seen people as evil as some of the people I've seen on YouTube. And I'm going to use that word because there are some truly evil people who have some serious issues that they need to work through. You think Daniel and Justin? I want to know why nobody talks about Justin. I want to know why it seems like Justin quite likely was on the property and they're keeping it super quiet. Yeah, I'm clinging to that too. Although, you know, I've said for a long time that there's a lot of clues that we've had from Rob that definitely suggest, you know, things that he's given away accidentally so many times. Oh yeah, as Bonza said, Justin's dog died 3 times, at least. Because apparently it had died the Christmas before Lily and Jack went missing. It died around the time Lily and Jack went missing. And then it died the Christmas after Lily and Jack went missing. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. That's the thing. You have bullying has reached a new level because it's no longer that subtle bullying in a workplace or the subtle bullying in the schoolyard. it's something where people can bully 24/7 and they can hide behind a screen. That's the downside of social media, in my opinion. Yeah, actively. Justin has been actively hidden from mention. And not only that, they're so defensive. And you get reincarnation with the dog. Yeah, that must be it. They're saying, yeah, they're not even saying anything, are they, about Justin? Sorry, I was reading really slowly. And you get Daniel with that whole defensive, oh, well, you know, why would Justin be here for a rug party because he's got a family and kids of his own? Like, what? Jamie definitely is 100% focused on protecting her sons. 100% focused. At her own expense. And in my opinion, you can see the cognitive dissonance that's happening. They are so not focusing today. I think it's tearing Janie up. I think Janie is the sort of person that would normally do the right thing. But the need to protect her sons is above all else. Oh, don't get me started on the AI images. The number of AI images that are circulating with this case, and the number of AI images that are circulating being used to bully people. And people just don't question it. People don't realise how very, very easy it is to manipulate images. I don't think my mind has woken up yet. I had probably about 3 hours sleep. I've got an old dog who takes forever to settle overnight, and there are some nights when we're up and down till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the thing I struggle with, because I've got ADHD, if I have to get up and take the dogs out, then I go back to bed, I'm wide awake. So then it takes me time to wind down again. And then I'm just about asleep, and then Taka's suddenly dancing around in the hallway wanting to go out again. So the squirrels are well and truly running loose today, because I don't think my brain's even there, to be honest. Sadly, it seems there's a few channels that are ignoring bullying happening in their chats, in their comment sections, and not getting rid of those people, not getting rid of their comments even. Oh yeah, yep. I mean, I think back to the Kylie Rodney case, and some of the things that were being done then before AI was so accessible. Because I've used this as an example before, but there was this camera footage that came out, and it was meant to be the the California fire footage stuff. They've got fire cameras all around California and Nevada. Because, you know, genius idea getting Australian gums, eucalyptus and stuff, and putting them in hilly areas because, you know, they've got oil in the leaves and they burn like anything. So when you've got areas like California and Nevada that get heat in summer, and you've got Australian eucalyptus that are just going to burn like wildfire, you get a lot of wildfires in California and Nevada now. But anyway, so with the Kylie Rodney case, this footage came out from one of the fire towers. And the interesting thing was that it was emailed to content creators. And I wasn't a content creator at the time I started with Kylie's case, but at that time I wasn't a content creator. And they emailed people a link for this fire cam footage that allegedly showed Kylie's car being driven into the water, pushing the narrative that Kylie drove herself into the water. But obviously you had to go onto the page and you had to click this archives button to find it. But here's the thing. Those of us who didn't get sent the link because we weren't content creators or because we just got missed out of the email, did a Google search for the fire cameras. And the pages we got were very, very different. For starters, they didn't have an archive button. And people were questioning it and bringing it up. And then all of a sudden, someone found an article, a newspaper article, not a newspaper, but, you know, an online written article that talked about how they were transferring the system across. So it was on 2 different sites. And somebody actually had a closer look at that article and discovered that what someone had done was they had basically gotten into they'd hacked the article and changed they'd hacked an article from a media account and changed it to make this story. Now, we've seen so many other things going on in terms of people creating false narratives before AI was readily accessible. And now, people can create anything they want with AI. And people are not thinking about that. People are just blindly accepting what they see. Blindly accepting things they're being told because, oh, look, here's an article that says it. It's too easy to fake things these days. Anyway, little bit of a rant there. I have to say, the only advantage of having an old dog who wakes up multiple times during the night, yeah, people do forget that their IP address can be tracked. The only advantage with having a dog that wakes up multiple times through the night, when I've got to wait 5 or 10 minutes for her to come inside, I usually find myself potting around doing a bit of housework. So when you're getting up 3 or 4 times through the night, that's, you know, maybe half an hour's worth of housework that gets done in the middle of the night while I'm waiting for my dogs. So I guess it has advantages. AI is very, very dangerous. Here's the other thing too. These data centers that they're building, the amount of power that they're draining, the amount of water that they're using, it's frightening. It really is. Anyway, I'm so off track. Yes, all those things, manufactured stories, backdating Facebook pages, creating fake accounts, all these sort of things. Yeah, someone needs to lock those damn squirrels up today. They are just going all over. Well, when I'm on the brink of falling asleep and I get woken up by an old dog that needs to go out, because it's so cold, I can't just go and open the back door and then go back to bed. So I've got to wait for her, and the only way of staying awake is if I do something. So for me, the practical solution is to just start doing a little bit of some sort of housework while I'm waiting for the dogs to come back in. But, you know, I can stop because I'm, like, you know, so exhausted that as soon as the dogs come back in, I shut the door and we all head back to bed. But then it takes me a while to settle again. So, okay, a bit more audio because we really haven't gotten far at all.
That the dogs lost the scent at the bottom of the driveway. But again, the thing about it is that, and you know, they're looking at scents that don't belong in the natural environment, right?
Malaya told me Friday night was when the one bloodhound was brought in.
Okay. Yes. That's in the dispatch. That's in the dispatch calls is when the dogs arrived. The first dog arrived. Yeah. I think it was a bit late. I think it was afternoonish, I believe, but it could be late afternoon. It all depends
No,
on
the
people's
dog. Yeah,
terminology.
the dogs were there late afternoon, but they were the air scent dogs or whatever that pick up just something that doesn't belong.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yep.
I'd have to go through the dispatch again, but those air scent dogs were there pretty quickly. I believe the bloodhound is what was used to check around the pipeline where they found the boot prints. But listening to the dispatch, I'm pretty certain from memory that they had dogs there within the first hour or so. Deborah, I do that, but my old dog takes forever when she goes outside at night. I think she just kind of wanders and forgets what she's doing out there. So sometimes it can be like 10 minutes before she comes back in. So yeah, it's a while. The dog things, I need to go back and check all this. Get a timeline for when you hear mention of the first dog on the dispatch. I know it's definitely on the first dispatch video that I've got, but I think it was actually within the first hour or so. And that's only what we hear mention of on the dispatch. I think they actually headed to the property pretty quickly. Because don't forget too that they were looking for that kayaker. So in terms of the helicopters, the dogs and stuff, they redirected them from there and they were there pretty quickly. The bloodhound, I think they're right, and it was brought in later. But I'm not sure if there's anything really specific in the dispatch audio that shows the difference. So I think they're basing that on what Malaya has said, essentially. Yeah, I'm going to have to clarify that, I think, because it certainly seems like there's confusion.
There was a specific bloodhound that was brought in Friday night going by Malaya.
Okay. I haven't heard that either. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think we need to acknowledge, though, that Malaya hasn't always been truthful either. Now, in that instance, if I was trying to figure out motivation for her to come up with that story, I'm not sure I've got an immediate answer for that. So it could well be quite accurate, and it is quite possible that there was, after they found the blanket, it's quite possible that they did bring a bloodhound in specifically. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
And some of this stuff may have been said in a general sense, right? And all mixed in, and nobody verified, bloodhound to, scent dogs, right?
Well, when I asked Major Crimes about the scent dogs, and I have to laugh because people had stated about the way Daniel worded it when he described the scent dogs. But that's exactly what Major Crimes told me. They said it's not like in the movies. These dogs pick up a scent in the woods that doesn't belong there. That's
Correct.
why when we went to search, we weren't allowed on the new site, which was across the road towards Lansdowne Station area. That's where the search was Saturday when we went there. They still had searchers on Daniel's side, but the majority of the search was across the road.
It's interesting that they told Belinda the same thing. That's only in the movies. Because we know for a fact that dogs can be trained to be scent-specific dogs. So I just find it curious that they would say that. They either pause before saying Friday, or they stutter on Friday. But they always make a point too of making sure that they're trying to say Friday morning. But nearly every time Daniel and Janie talk about Friday morning, you either get the pauses or the stuttering, the Friday morning. It's like their brain is just desperate to let people know that they're completely lying, that it's complete utter BS. It's like their brain is hijacking them and essentially making them give themselves away. You're so right on that, Grover. Spot on. To me, it is significant that when they talk about Friday morning, there's the pauses or the stuttering and stuff. Yeah. It is like a short circuit in the brain. The brain's going, yeah, that's not the truth. And the brain's like, I'm just going to stop you right there. And they push on anyway. Daniel thinks he can convince people of everything. He thinks he can tell a story and people will believe it. And he thinks that he can then tell a different story about the same thing and people are going to forget about the original story that he said, even though it's still there online and can be easily found. I think there's probably more to the story in terms of the dogs when it comes to the RCMP. I think there's probably a lot they're not telling us, in my opinion. I agree, Friday morning never happened. For me, the last tangible thing from anyone, is Janie talking about coming out of her RV on the Thursday afternoon and seeing the children playing and digging for worms and bugs. And she says, well, keep going, or, keep looking, or something like that. After that, it's all vague. There's gaps in the narrative. There's inconsistencies. It just doesn't seem to work.
Yeah. And you're right. And they will pick up any human. That's what they're trying to do, is pick up a scent that doesn't belong in the natural
Right.
environment.
Right. But Malaya specifically, because I said I wanted to know why wouldn't they bring in a bloodhound? And she said they do have one bloodhound that was brought in, and it arrived late Friday night.
And you're understanding the difference between a bloodhound
Yes.
and the scent dogs is what?
Yes. Well, the fact that you can give a bloodhound the scent of a person and it'll follow that scent.
Okay. Okay.
And she's
I do want to clarify that. Isn't there an island? Yeah, I think there is an island for people like Daniel. Sorry, it's just that was such a long-running joke with me and friends for so many years. Anytime there was someone who we thought was just a little off-center, the comment, someone would always come out with the comment with, they need to put them on that island too. So you saying that just brought all that back. Yes. Janie is really resentful of that situation, in my opinion. Now, just a clarification in terms of the bloodhounds, because bloodhounds is more about referring to a breed, and they're referring to like your Basset type dogs. Now, yes, that means that they may have specific roles, like they could be trained as scent specific dogs, but they could also be trained as ground trackers. In other words, the bloodhound may not have necessarily been scent specific. It could have been a tracking dog as opposed to an air scent dog, the type that look for the differences in the ground, so they can smell like where the grass is broken, where someone's walked, so they follow a very specific track, not necessarily scent specific, not necessarily given like a piece of clothing and following a single scent, if that makes sense. So yeah, anyone can own a bloodhound. So there is a misinterpretation there. Now, we know, I think it was Janie said that she had the clothing that was on the vehicle that Wade saw. Janie says that was pulled out for the dog. But then we've also heard at one point in time, again, so many stories, and again, someone was speaking about that they pulled the clothing out, but then the detectives had said, no, that's not what they do, or something. Might be good to put Janie and Malaya there also on the island. Yep, definitely. I think they all can go on that island. Yeah. We all desperately wish they had never moved there. But yeah, not for the same reasons as Janie. But yeah, in terms of the bloodhound, that doesn't mean that it was scent specific. It could have just been a tracker just following ground scents of any person who'd been through. Now, here's something really cool and really fascinating that I learned about basset hounds. You know how they've got those really long ears that pretty much hit the ground? When you look at a basset hound, the bottom of their ears kind of scoop up a bit, they curve, and they actually kind of scoop up towards the dog's nose. They were specifically bred, I think they were bred by the French, and they were bred for, like, hunting, because what happens is that their ears actually control the airflow. So the scents that are carried on the ears, the scents that are carried in the air hits their ears, and their ears have got that kind of curl at the bottom, which basically directs the air straight back up towards their nose. So that's why they are such effective dogs, because they've got this extra thing that happens that means that they can, the smells are like, targeted even more because of the way the airflow, the way their ears actually flick the smell back at them. I'm not describing it very well, but it's just something that I find really fascinating. It's something that I discovered many years ago. And I think in terms of scent dogs for cases like this, when we talk about bloodhounds and that sort of thing, it's just fascinating when you realise that those big ears actually have a purpose. Well, I think it's pretty cool anyway. Yeah. But it's ridiculous. They think they can lie to the public and convince us, and that somehow that's going to get them off. Because it is. It's like they think, well, because, well, it's a few things. Daniel and Janie, oh, you have to, I'll have to look that up more. I know that the bloodhounds were specifically bred for some sort of scent. But, we're talking like France back in the 1500s, 1600s or something like that. What was I saying? Daniel and Janie seem to think that because nobody on Malaya's side is talking, they can just make up whatever story they like and put it out there. Likewise, they seem to think that because the RCMP are keeping quiet about the case, they can make up any story they like and put it out there. They think they have to convince the public of their innocence. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the public thinks. It matters what the RCMP know. And every time Daniel and Janie come out with a new story or a new version of the story, they're just providing additional evidence in the case. Just, I can't understand the lack of intelligence of these people. I mean, Daniel even says that he knows that the RCMP are watching all this. Well, if he knows the RCMP are watching all this, why does he come out and keep changing his story? Oh, wow. Your beagle found your husband's wallet in a 2-acre field once. That's amazing. Beagles are such amazing dogs. They really are. A little bit crazy at times, but that just makes them even more adorable. But yeah, they are amazing dogs. That's why in Australia, most of the airports have beagles because they're really good for smelling or for like smelling biological stuff that shouldn't have been brought in the country, or for smelling drugs and stuff. So they specifically use beagles at most airports in Australia. Oh, beagle, black and tan with a white heart on her forehead. How cute. I adore beagles so much. They're just gorgeous dogs. They really are. The American bloodhound was heavily used for hunting slaves. Yeah. Cookie, that's such a cute name for a dog. Well, I think the squirrels are well and truly loose. I think I'm just gonna call it a day. I haven't got very far at all with this, I must admit. But I have at least. I still think I've sort of said some worthwhile things, and I love when I can just go with the flow in terms of what people are saying in chat, because there are so many cool things that people do actually bring up in chat. And sometimes I try so hard to focus on what I'm covering that I don't get to relax enough and address what's being said. So I do like being able to do this occasionally, even if it isn't staying on track. Oh wow, that's so cool. So there's an antique store nearby. He took her there to go to the washroom before he went into the antique store, realizing his wallet was gone. So cool. Beagles truly are amazing dogs. We underestimate the capacity of dogs sometimes. I think we just forget how amazing they can be. Anyway, thanks for coming in. I know this has been all over the place. As much as I would love to push on with this, I think that my brain's just not cooperating enough today. So this is definitely a good spot to wrap it up. I will try and get more sleep tonight so that tomorrow when I go live I can be a bit more focused. I'm going to aim for a Maddie live stream for tomorrow, because I would like to make Mondays my Maddie Mondays. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that YouTube doesn't decide to demonetize it again. I kind of feel bad because I took yesterday off and didn't do a Jack and Lily live stream yesterday, but I do want to do Maddie Mondays because I'm still so passionate about Maddie's case. So I will come and do Maddie tomorrow, even if I do an hour of Maddie and then take a break and come back to Lily and Jack. I don't know. We'll just see. Anyway, so please hit the like button on your way out. Always helps me out. Please go and check out my other videos that I put out, especially the Australian girl. That's a case that I'd really like to get out there, get seen by people. Thanks for coming in, and I'll catch you in the next one.